Welcome to the Brigham Young University Family History Library webinar series. Feel free to use the chat box for any questions. If we are unable to get to them during the presentation, they will be answered at the end. My name is Maddie Acey. I will be your host for this webinar. Today, we will be pleased to hear from James Tanner, who will be giving a presentation titled Cloud Computing Solutions for Genealogists. James Tanner has a bachelor's degree in Spanish and a master's degree in linguistics from the University of Utah. He received a Juris Doctor degree in law at Arizona State University. He served for 2 years as an intelligence analyst for the U.S. Army and 39 years as an Arizona trial attorney. He has previously owned a retail computer business and an Apple Macintosh software company. James has over 32 years experience in genealogical research and as an avid blogger of Genealogy Star blog and Rejoice and Be Exceeding Glad. He served for 10 years as a missionary at the Mesa, Arizona Family Search Library and is currently serving at the BYU Family History Library. He has presented at expos and conferences around the U.S. and Canada. James has 7 children and 33 grandchildren.
There we go. Howdy, this is James Tanner. We're here in the BYU Family History Library, and we're going to talk today about cloud computing solutions for genealogists. This is part of an ongoing series of webinars that are recorded and uploaded to the Brigham Young University Family History Library, or that's BYU Family History Library YouTube channel. They're also available on the BYU Family History Library website, which is part of byu.edu. We're happy to be here today talking about cloud computing, and we'll get right into that. First of all, we need to understand a little bit about the difference between computer programs that are running on your computer and a computer program that is running on someone else's computer out there on the internet that we refer to as a cloud, or that's sort of a euphemistic jargon term that's been applied to the internet. It was, I think, part of an idea of selling things, but it's really kind of just become a common word to refer to putting your information out there on other people's storage devices rather than your own. So what we have to think of in terms of programs that we use out there, we have to first think of those programs we'll run on our computer. For example, if you bought a word processing program previously, perhaps you no longer use a word processing program that's on your computer. You might have switched over to one that is being hosted out on the internet. A prime example of this would be Microsoft Office and the Microsoft Word processing program. Microsoft Word was a standalone program that you would go into a computer store and buy a box with a disk inside and load onto your computer. That was sort of the old days. Eventually, those programs were sold by downloading them from one of the larger sellers, either the Microsoft directly or from one of the Android Play or Android app store, or the Apple App Store, any of the different places where you could purchase the programs and download them to your computer. Eventually what has happened, and we're still in that process of transition, those same programs that we would purchase for our computer, dedicated to our computer, we now rent, and the program itself is only available when we're connected to the internet. This is extended. One of the first major companies that got into this business was Adobe. They put all of their programs into what they call the Creative Cloud, and they stopped selling individual boxed sets of those programs. So you can't buy a disc anymore, and in fact you can't buy a manual or anything else to the program. Everything that you purchase is online. You can pay a monthly fee, which is like a rental fee, for any one of the programs, or you can buy the entire Creative Cloud, which allows you to download all of the Adobe programs and update them during the year for a set annual fee, usually payable monthly. The same thing now has been done by Microsoft. Microsoft Office 360 is online, and what it is a program that allows you to rent the Microsoft Office suite of programs, and they will then upgrade them every time that there's an upgrade, and you can use those on your computer. Usually those are downloadable versions that will only work as long as you are paying your um, monthly amount to Adobe or Microsoft or whoever. This is becoming the model for programs sort of all the way across the board. Obviously, from the standpoint of people using computers, they would rather have, I mean, from the manufacturers, they would rather have the people using computers pay a monthly fee and get that forever, instead of having to sell one program and then waiting around for them to either upgrade or buy another program from the same company. So this is kind of not just the wave of the future, but it is the future, and that's exactly what's happening. Now, the programs that we use to work on the computer, the cloud, primarily fall into three different categories. We call them email, we refer to them as cloud storage, and social networking programs. And these kinds of programs are all programs that are basically cloud supported and originated. In other words, they don't require you to have a program on your computer. You may have an email client on your computer. You could have some kind of social networking program or connecting program on your computer, but the entire program itself and the data and the information is online. And we'll get into that and how that works and why that's either an advantage or a disadvantage. Okay, so the first thing we need to understand is that you have your local computer. Now, the word computer here encompasses almost everything that you can think of that would connect to the internet. For example, a smartphone like an iPhone or an Android phone, a tablet such as an iPad or an Android tablet, uh, and or a computer like a laptop or a desktop computer. All of these are under the umbrella of that term computer. Your local computer is the device that you are holding in your hand or you have on your desktop. The next issue is that that computer is then connected to the cloud. Now, the connection is a physical cable, or in many cases today, it's what we call Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi, W-I-F-I. That is the same thing as a wire connection, but it is done through radio waves. Wi-Fi networks are very local. They may encompass only a single room or a single office or a single home, and they are your connection to the internet. So you connect your computer, your local computer out there, to all the other computers that are networked together in this vast millions and millions and millions of computers around the world called the internet. Then you're connecting to someone else's computer. If you are talking if you have an email account and your email account is with Google and you have a Gmail account, then you are talking to a Google computer someplace in the world, and that is what is administering your particular version of the email and what you're receiving. And you have an email address, which is your unique address where people can send you a message across all of this network from their computers to your computers. So from their iPhone to your iPhone, or from your Android phone to their Android phone. So hooking yourself up, this little cloud thing in the middle is all of those connections that are routing your messages and your information to someone else's computer. So you're talking out there to someone else, either directly or indirectly. And in this day and age, we can talk in real time across the computer. So I can call up, for example, one of my children in another state and have a face-to-face video conference call with them over the network, over the computer network. Uh, the idea here back in the old, many years ago, when they thought of the idea of using video phones, there was a lot of interest in the video phone idea, but many people were concerned. They were saying, well, what if I don't want to talk? And what if I don't want people to see me? And how are we going to do that? And where am I going to have to be to do it? And do I have to get dressed and comb my hair before I get on the phone? And things like this. Well, the answer to that has been pretty well established. You basically have the phone stuck in your ear and you talk directly, or if you want to talk and see somebody at the same time, then you certainly have the option to do that, but you're not required to. And that whole transaction is handled from a device that you carry around in your pocket all day long. So this is where we are today with computers moving. Now we need to be able to relate this um, to our interest as genealogists, and obviously as genealogists we use cloud storage, we use email, and we use social networking, but we also use genealogy programs that are in the cloud. Um, the best example of this today are the big genealogy programs like Family Search, Ancestry, MyHeritage, Find My Past, and others like that, where they have massive amounts of data, and we're able to access all of that data from our local device. Okay, so you can also go, by the way, from their remote computer to the cloud and then back to your computer. So they can have information, like this could be Family Search out there on the remote computer. They're sitting out there with the cloud. You have a connection, and so therefore you can get information from this big company out there that has all of this data and all this information about your family and your ancestors. Okay, so once that's down on your local computer, now most people today don't really think about whether or not the program is running on their computer or whether it's running on the internet. It's particularly true with smaller devices like iPads and other tablets and iPhones and smartphones of all kinds. Those particular devices depend almost 100% on the internet. There's almost nothing you can run on those little phones that works when you get offline. As you would find out if you take your phone camping and get off where it says no service, and all of a sudden you find out that there's not a whole lot that your little phone can do for you when you're not connected to that cloud out there, that internet that we're talking about. So now let me give you an example of how this works with a concrete example to use, talking about a photograph. I'm going to take a photograph and I'm going to use my phone to take a photo. Okay, so now I have that photo on my phone, which I can then look at. Then I'm going to transfer that to some online storage. I'm going to put it on Google Drive. I'm going to put it on iCloud for Apple. I'm going to put it on on Microsoft's OneDrive or one of the other online storage areas. And then what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to be able to download that to any other device that happens to be connected to the internet. Now we have a program out there that does this very efficiently. It's called Instagram. And Instagram, for example, takes it to the next step because you can then send that directly to someone else. So if I have a photo that I want to take of my children playing, or of a flower, or of a car accident, or whatever it is, and I want to send that to my friends, my family, then all I have to do is click the photo, hit the Instagram button, and they will have that on their devices, which they can review anytime they feel like they want to look at it. So then they can obviously do one more step, and that is they can like it, which means they can tell you that they saw it or that they really think it's as neat. Okay. And then, of course, you want to get a whole bunch of likes. So you try to come up with photos that everybody will like. Anyway, this is getting kind of carried away, but you can see the process here that you're actually uh, not physically moving anything. You're letting the electrons, that radio signals, and um, all of the things out there that there are uh, that connect these devices together to move that photo in a physical fashion from you to the online storage to some other device, and then virtually to the whole world. The world could look at that if they wish to do so, which is what happens, by the way, if you publish it on something like Facebook and you make it public, then practically anybody in the world could go on there and look at that. Okay, so now we have email. So an email program allows me to send text messages to whoever I choose, whoever I have an email address for. It's just like physical mail. It's basically replaced a lot of the physical mail that we would have sent in the old days. And the problem with email is that size and time. First of all, when I send an email to someone, they have to look at it and then they have to answer it or respond to it or use it. And by and large, email programs are limited as to the size of the file that you can send. Now, that photo that I took with my camera is probably small enough in size that it will go through an email program. But if I were to use my very sophisticated professional level camera and take a photo, it might be way too large. One photo might be too large to send in an email program. And so I could not send that to you through email. That becomes even more difficult when you're trying to send something like this presentation with all the photographs and text and everything that's involved through email. They're way too big for most of the email programs, almost nobody. So what has happened is there's kind of a cottage industry that has arisen. Uh, and in that case, they have provided ways to avoid the problems and limitations of email. Another major issue is a need to collaborate. Um, if I am working on my genealogy and I want to send a portion of what I'm doing to one of my relatives so that they can look at it, make comments or do research or respond to my questions, then those are the kinds of things that I would like to send. Now, I could make a physical paper copy of a pedigree and write a long letter and then send it off, and they could then get that in the mail and open it up and decide whether or not to respond, and maybe not, and maybe. Or I could do this all by email virtually instantaneously. In fact, I could carry on conversations back and forth using any number of programs, including live online discussion with my relatives about any subject and involve pictures and photographs and documents and all sorts of things in that discussion. So we have moved from having to be shackled with what we would refer to as paper-based genealogy into a genealogy that's based on electronic transfer of the information virtually instantaneously. So if you need to collaborate, you're going to have to use the cloud. That's probably the best way we have today to do that. If you need to move a lot of files and share a lot of information, once again, you want to use the cloud. If you need to move large files, like the large photograph or a number of photographs, then you want to use the cloud. So in almost every case, using these online tools of being able to upload and then make available to anyone the information that you have on your computer or that you've created will is the advantage of using the cloud. Now, the prototype of this, the original program I think that made the biggest impact and is still around and very, very influential program, although it's being copied by probably dozens of different, if not hundreds of different other programs. But today, it's still a very, very viable and very useful program, and it's called Dropbox. And Dropbox is a temporary or permanent, semi-permanent storage place on the cloud, on the internet, where you can upload a file, and it will then be sitting there on the cloud. So here's how it works. I have on my computer device a folder, a file folder. I create a document. So I create a document like a word processing document, a photograph, whatever. And then I just drop that into my local Dropbox folder. And I can have two kinds of folders on there. I can have folders that I maintain and that are private and that no one else can see. And so I can store that document out there, and then it is available to me to any one of my devices, any place I happen to be connected to the internet. So for example, let's say I create a research list of microfilm that I'm going to look at the library. So I come here to the library, and that microfilm list was created in a program, in a format, and I drop that into my Dropbox folder. Well, when I get here to the library, I can pull out my phone, open my Dropbox folder, and see that same document. I can go onto any one of the computers here in the library, open up my Dropbox folder, and see the same document. So I am able to transfer that through using the cloud out there, because that Dropbox folder transfers it to the cloud, Dropbox's cloud, which then makes it available to come back. So now we have that document out there on Dropbox Cloud, then I can go back to a Dropbox folder, which I can then open up on my computer or any other device, and I have a copy of the document. Okay, let me tell you how this works in real life and what we figured out. My wife and I are working on two different computers. We actually are in the same room. We're about arm's length apart, but she's working away on her computer and I'm working away on my computer. Previously, what we would have to do would be to create some kind of network, local network, to transfer any file from my computer to her computer. So let's say I write a document that she needs to look at or edit, then I would have to either print out a copy or we would have to transfer it. Well, now we're constantly connected to the internet, both of us, and we have a very fast connection. So we have a shared Dropbox folder on the computer. They're sitting on both my computer and on her computer. And anything I put in that shared folder automatically pops over, copied to the cloud, and then pops over to her computer. So even though we're sitting next to each other, it is much more efficient for us to use this internet and put this document out through the entire world system of computers to come back to her computer almost instantaneously, rather than make a copy or try to get the computers to talk to each other through some other kind of local network. So in other words, what we've done now, if we can abstract that, because I could be sitting halfway around the world and put a document into that same document folder, and our physical distance makes absolutely no difference in the time that it would take that folder, that piece of that file that I created, to appear in her local folder on her computer. So we can talk to people all around the world, and they will say, okay, I'm going to drop this in my Dropbox folder, and then in a matter of a few seconds, that document appears on my computer. I can then open the document and see exactly what it is they're talking. Okay, so the abstract of this is a real estate transaction, anything having to do with transfer of documents. In the old days, when I was involved in the sale of a piece of property, for example, I would have to go to a title company and sit there and sign documents. Today, I'm sent a document in a folder like the Dropbox folder that has all of the documents that I need to sign for the sale of the piece of property. And then I sign those electronically, and they are then transferred immediately to the other party or whoever it is that I'm dealing with that I need to sign documents with. Well, if you think about this, then what this means is that you can do two things. You can send and share documents with other people, but you can also make your own documents available wherever you happen to be. One of the biggest problems people had in the past was that they would have a local program uh, for their database for genealogy. And then what would happen with that local program is that they would have to be worried about keeping it in synchronization if they used a copy of that in a remote location. So if I put that on a flash drive and made some changes, I would have to come home and figure out how to make sure that my changes were incorporated into the program that I had on my local computer. Well, I can avoid that by simply putting the data file into one of the online data storage programs like Dropbox or the other ones that we'll talk about. And in that case, that document then becomes available at the library. All I have to do is open that folder with a copy of the program in the library and use it and update it. And then it is automatically updated because it's the same folder, the same document that I have at home. And so I don't have to worry about synchronizing my data between um, the different programs that I have. Okay, there are some limitations here. Anybody working with the programs has to be using the same program. So if I do a Photoshop document, for example, and I save it as a Photoshop file, you better have Photoshop when I send it to you because you're not going to be able to open it without Photoshop. You know, there are maybe some other programs that open Photoshop documents, but we have to have programs that will utilize the same files back and forth. Now, this becomes a problem. And the problem is that as genealogists, we have all sorts of data in different formats on different programs. So if I do a family tree on my local program, say Roots Magic or Ancestral Quest or Family Tree Builder or something, then you have to have the same program if I send you a data file. And there are some very, you know, kind of sideways limitations here in the genealogical community. An older program that we can use called GEDCOM, GEDCOM, that allows us to send some of the information in our programs to other programs. But by and large, the rule is that you need to be using the same program to see all of the data that you've created back and forth between these. Now, here's some alternatives. First of all, these are alternatives to Dropbox, and I just don't want to slight anybody or their company or whatever, but just go through a few of the more prominent ones uh, that work similarly to Dropbox. First of all, we have a program called Google Drive. Google has been moving more and more into this. Google has a program called Google Docs that goes with Google Drive. Drive is the storage place where you can put photos or you can put documents or whatever it is that you're working on. And Google Docs provides you with online versions of word processing, presentation, spreadsheet programs so that you can work with that data. By the way, all of the Google Drive and Google Docs programs are free as long as you don't exceed the limit of their storage capacity. Right now, Google Drive is at 1 terabyte of free storage. And so you can put a lot of information onto Google Drive before you actually have to cough up with some money. Microsoft OneDrive is similar type of situation. You do get a certain amount of free storage, and then after that, if you want more than that free amount, then you're going to end up paying for storage. Apple has its iCloud, same exact scenario here. You can work on it. You can use the programs. Microsoft's Office programs, for example, take advantage of OneDrive, so you can store all your documents online and collaborate and do all sorts of things with people on other computers. iCloud has the same thing, and it has Apple's programs, Pages and Numbers, and the other programs they have that are supported by their iCloud online storage. So as you create documents in these programs, then you can automatically store them on Google's or Microsoft's or Apple's computers, and they'll be available on any one of your devices. The Amazon cloud is another huge storage cloud online. Amazon and Google both presently have unlimited free photo storage. So if you, well, free in the sense that you have to have a subscription to their program in the first place, but Amazon, for example, you need Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon, what's called Amazon Prime, then you can get this free online storage, free past the Prime cost. And then Adobe has their own called Adobe Creative Cloud. And if you're using Adobe programs, then you can use the Creative Cloud if you're already a subscriber. So it gives you storage for your Adobe files if you wish to use it. Some of these programs actually give you additional storage, like Dropbox, for example. If you recruit somebody to use Dropbox, then they give you some additional free storage. So you end up with the having more and more storage for free as you are recruiting people, in a sense, to use the program. Some of them have up to 1 terabyte of free storage. That's 1,000 gigabytes of storage, and that's a lot of storage. Some of us, especially some genealogists, could use up 1 terabyte rather quickly because of the vast amount of documents and photos and scans that we've created. But in the general world, 1 terabyte is a lot of information that probably most people will not generate. And like I mentioned, some of these, like Google Drive and Amazon, have unlimited file storage for photos. And I think Dropbox also was talking about that for a while, but they've been changing their free storage bias. In all of these, I would suggest that you may be watching this video at a time that's quite remote from the time that I recorded it. And I would strongly suggest that you look at any of these programs and study what they are currently offering, because that could obviously have changed over the time that this program this whole idea here may sound rather old-fashioned at some point when they say you were only worried about 1 terabyte of storage. So at some point in time we may have some unlimited storage on all types of computers. Who knows? That's probably something that's going to end up coming at some point in time. Now we're going to look at the famous @ sign, which is the symbol for email, and we're going to see some of the limitations of that email thing. First of all, I mentioned already that email has a difficulty sharing large files. It has difficulty sharing a large number of files, and it has a very low limit of both files and file sizes. So it's not unusual at all with email programs to have a message come back that says your attachment is too large. You can either reduce the size of your attachment, or you can move from there over to the cloud. And additionally, one of the advantages of the cloud is that you can share them on any device. So once it's up there, there are apps for all of those different programs. So I can get a Google Docs app for my iPhone or for my Android device and or my tablet, and then I can use my documents directly on uh, my device or tablet. Now, here's where I was just not too long ago in the situation of analyzing my data usage, and particularly my involvement in the genealogical community online as a blogger and presenting at various classes and conferences, and also things like this webinar. Um, my question was this: I've been using a laptop for many years. I've had a succession of PC laptops. I've also had a number of Apple laptop computers. And my question was, because of the changes in the technology, was I going to stay with a laptop computer, or was I going to work through something like the new Microsoft Surface, which is a sort of a very expansive tablet type computer with keyboard, or the iPad Pro, which is the Apple's version of the large screen equivalent of a laptop in a sense. So I spent some considerable amount of time concerned about this problem, probably about 3 or 4 months of studying and learning about the limitations, and basically came to the conclusion that the vast majority of the things that I did as a genealogist I could do online, and that an iPad Pro, for example, which had a keyboard and the capability of using most of the online programs, would operate perfectly well as a replacement for my laptop. So a couple of months ago, I made the change and switched over to an iPad Pro. So now I have moved from working with programs that are primarily sitting on a computer to working with programs that are primarily sitting online. And I can't say that the transition has been seamless or easy. It is a little bit, I do have to adapt to some different ways of handling the data, but for the most part, there haven't been any of the limitations of the iPad that I wasn't able to overcome using online programs. So this whole process has become a way of moving away from purchasing programs for your computer and, if necessary, renting them online, but on the other hand, using what happen to be presently free programs from a number of different online suppliers. So, for example, I can move to Google Docs, and Google Docs is a free program online, and it allows me to have spreadsheets and database and other kinds of usages there that I can store information and use it on any of my devices, including my iPad Pro and my phone. So we'll now walk to another type of program here. This is a program that many people use as the basis for doing their genealogical research. We have in many of the conferences, including the big Roots Tech conference in Salt Lake City, Utah, there are always a couple of classes on using Evernote as a basis for doing your organizing and collaborating with and doing all sorts of things with your data on your computer. Evernote is a very powerful program. Once again, it's the kind of program that's free at one level. If you exceed their storage or upload quota, then you have to pay money to expand that capability of the program. Uh, I use Evernote constantly, almost every day. I keep a lot of information in the program. I move a lot of information from one program to another using Evernote. I found it to be extremely useful in keeping um, and capturing information. There's for the Macintosh computers that I use primarily, there's a part of Evernote called Sketch, and it is a screen grabber that is integrated with Evernote. So I can grab screens, I can save them if I wish to do that, and I can maintain organization of notebooks. And basically, I would suggest if this sounds like something you might be interested in, that there are any number of online videos on the YouTube channel. Uh, look for YouTube video genealogy Evernote, and you'll probably find a number of presentations about this particular subject. I know we have done some here at the BYU Family History Library, so I'd check there. Now here's Evernote. Evernote, you can do these kinds of things. You can clip from the web. You can take notes. You can record your research, and you can then share this information with others using the program. And then it'll go far beyond these basic tasks. Um, and you can get into the program and actually spend a great deal of time, and it will organize and help you to be organized in taking your information. Okay, we're going to move to a different example program, and that's Skype. And Skype is a program that was developed to take advantage of something that's called, first of all, instant messaging, where a person can take a type on the screen, and then that is instantly sent to someone else. Texting is a form of instant messaging. Um, it became more popular with the mobile devices, but we started using instant messaging on desktop computers many years ago. They developed from there to what was called online telephone or voice over internet protocol, VoIP. And this was a way to avoid paying money to telephone companies in a sense. They developed systems where they would send telephone messages over the internet. And now this is so common that we don't even know that we do it sometimes, because we can talk to people like I'm doing today on this webinar, and uh, and when instantly they're listening to me talk when I am not using a telephone, only in the general sense that I'm connected to a cable that goes on to the internet. Um, and by and large, what this has done is kind of restructured the telephone companies and others, and many people have given up what we call their landline, meaning their phone that's connected to a cable someplace, and almost everybody now uses a cell phone at some point in their usage. I've been looking at cell phone usage over the last couple of years and the statistics on cell phone usage, and it's predicted by the end of 2017 that over 70% of the world will own smartphones. And right now, in some places in the United States, the number of people with cell phones is reaching 90% of the population. That's men, women, and children. That's everybody. You know, that you can see, you see babies holding cell phones now. So it's it's kind of a thing. The other part of that you add on to it is video messaging, where you can see the person that you're talking to. Now, this is popular with people wanting to have face-to-face conversations. There's a lot that you can do when you're looking at somebody and meeting them over the internet. It also is a really good way to keep in touch with your family. It's been a very interesting thing for our family. Lives all over the country, all over the United States, and is often some of them are often visitors to foreign countries. And we've been able to keep together through either instant messaging, texting, voice over internet protocol, and on occasion with video messaging. So in some cases you can do that in multiple people at the same time. Now, the thing about the internet And the thing about these programs is that they run all day and all night. So as you become integrated into this online world, you begin to realize that space and time really are relative. You can you can talk to people on the other side of the world practically at any time of day or night, and you have the option of sending messages that can be received instantaneously uh, from any time of the day that you happen to want to do that. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning and you're still awake and working, you can keep sending messages to people all day and all night. Now, here's some alternatives for that kind of connection to Skype. Skype gives you that voice over internet protocol and some other connections. There's another one out there called Google Plus Hangouts, and this is now a separate program. It was part of Google Plus, and it was called Google Hangouts, but now it's an actual separate program of Hangout that works very well, and you can get up. Actually, there's a sort of a commercial version of the program that will let you have up to 100, up to unlimited number of people listening to a Google Hangout. But generally, you're limited to around 10 people on the line at the same time. It can get a little bit confusing while everybody tries to talk at the same moment, but it is a very efficient way to talk to people. Um, I got on a Google Hangout the other day with someone in New York, and we just basically talk back and forth all we want. We can type messages to each other, or we could talk directly, however we chose to communicate. Apple has one called FaceTime. Um, most of the iPhones, the Apple phones have FaceTime built in, Apple devices, the iPads, and desktop computers. So if you want to see somebody, you call them up on FaceTime. If they answer, then the camera that's in the phone or on the desktop will kick in and you can see who's talking. And it's sort of the ultimate changing iterations of all of the different video, attempting to create video thing. You can always text people. We have all sorts of text programs, message programs that you simply type on your computer and send a text either to an email address or to a telephone number, and the person at the other end gets that text message usually pretty quickly, not always exactly in real time, but usually within a few seconds. Um, Very helpful for places where you don't want to be talking out loud. It's also good. There also, if you're using data, it's helpful that texting doesn't quite take as much data as video and some of the other things do. All of these, by the way, are based on cost, um, and they all have things to do with what we can do. Now, what's come out lately as sort of the substitute for all of these put together is Instagram, which supports short videos. It also supports uh, sending photos. In fact, the whole idea of Instagram is that you take a photo and send the photo with comments to whoever you're addressing. Um, we have found over the past few months, year or so, that Instagram is becoming more and more popular uh, with certain level of people, and it is to some extent replacing their blogging efforts. We aren't seeing people send out blogs nearly as much as we are them being involved with Instagram. If I were to pull out my phone right now, I'd probably have a dozen or more Instagram messages sitting there waiting for me from various members of my family. Okay, now we're to one of the more basic uh, concerns of genealogists, and that is that we're creating all of this information, storing all of this information on our computers, and we need to back that information up, and we need to back it up to some other device or to some way to keep it from what happens to our computer. If our primary computer is a desktop computer, Uh, there's lots of things that can happen that can crash itself. The computer itself can stop functioning. Your house could have an emergency. It could be any one of the huge number of things that happen out there, floods and hurricanes and tornadoes and thunderstorms and lightning and all sorts of things that can damage your computer. So, and basically there's just the vagaries of being electronically connected where you simply might lose information due to a power failure or some other uh, very minor transitory problem that turns into an emergency and a crisis for your life. Okay, so we most of us acknowledge the need to back up our data. And the more time and the more effort that you have put um, into your genealogy and all of the files that you've created, the more important this backup becomes. So the question you want to ask yourself is, do you really want to have to replace all that, redo everything that you've just done? If you're not redoing it, then you don't need it. But so you have some storage alternatives. First of all, you can use a subscription service online. If you have an online connection, which most of the country does now, then you can use you can use that as a backup. In addition to, and I would suggest that you may still want to maintain the hard drive backup, or if you don't have that much data and you can fit it onto flash drives. The problem with flash drives, of course, is that you can lose them very easily, and but they're very dependable. Hard drives are very inexpensive for very large drives today. Um, but as an alternative, you can put some of or all of your information onto the internet, onto the cloud. First of all, you can pay for that on a subscription. So you can pay a monthly fee and get a certain amount of storage that is enough to cover what you need. And that is one alternative. Second alternative uh, is that the subscription services may offer up to unlimited storage, meaning no matter how much information you have, 2 or 3 terabytes or more, you still only pay one fee, and then you can store all of your stuff up on the internet. Now, the next issue, of course, is they have plans for multiple computers. So if you own 2 or 3 or 4 different devices, they will store all of the information that you create on all of those different devices. That goes for phones and laptops and all sorts of other computers that you might own, iPads or tablets. And the speed of doing this depends on your internet connection. Now, one of the advantages we have here at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, and living in Provo, Utah, is that we have what's called Google Fiber. We have 1 gigabit storage speed, which is about 1,000 times faster than most of what you have in the United States. Well, not necessarily in various countries have similar kinds of speed connection, but I just had the opportunity of backing up my files, and I made one backup of my files onto a hard drive, and then I made a second copy backup onto another hard drive. So I did that process. That took me 6.5 days of online, 24 hours a day backing up. Now, that's the problem with your internet connection. If you have a slow internet connection and you have a lot of data, it could take you a week or even 2 weeks to get all of your data up online. So you have to take all of these things into consideration when you're thinking of putting it up there. So what are the alternatives? The alternative is search online for online backup storage. In other words, go look and see what the alternatives are. Find out what you can do to put something up there on the computer that will back up your computer. Now, some of the programs have automatic backup capabilities. In other words, you install a program on your device, and when the device is connected to the internet and available, it will then immediately start to back up all the data on your file, on your computer, including in some cases your operating system and your all your programs. So if your computer was completely fried or destroyed or stolen, you could then reconstruct and put back all your data and all your programs and all your everything onto a fresh computer. So these are the kinds of things that are offered. Now, obviously, there are some costs involved. Okay, so we're really to the end of the ideas here, but there's really this goes much further. The concept here of working online and having this interconnectedness it changes the way that you do your genealogy. Let me just kind of add as a summary here a description of how I would be doing work on my computer in the library here at BYU. Now, I'm going to use two different examples. The first example is one where I start working on my program, my genealogy program at home. So I have my genealogy file on a program, and I could have that on a online program. I could have it on Family Search, or on MyHeritage, or on Ancestry, or Find My Past, or one of the other WikiTree, or any one of the big, or Genie, one of the big database programs. Uh, and the answer to that is when I come here to the library, I have the same program. I have my data. I don't even have to go anyplace. I don't have to carry anything here. I don't have to carry a flash drive. I don't have to do anything. If all my data is sitting on one of these programs, all I have to do is have an internet connection and I'm hooked in. Okay. If I do some research here and add it to my program, it's already there. When I go home, I don't have to worry about remembering to bring my flash drive or pulling it out of the machine and not forgetting it in the library or whatever. I already have it at home. I can do that by copying the programs off to one of the online programs like Google Docs, for example, that I used as the early example, or Evernote, or Dropbox. So I can create documents there that I have at home. Let's go to the second example, and that is I'm working on something that is definitely low-tech, old school, and that is microfilm. And I have to do a microfilm. Well, we have here at the library, the BYU library, we have what are called Scan Pros, and they are electronic microfilm readers. So what they can do is they're actually computers, and you just plug in your storage device, or you can go directly to something on the internet if you wish to do that. So I can go on to a microfilm, and when I see a document on the microfilm that I want to copy and use as a source for my genealogy, all I have to do is push the button. It copies it onto the computer. I could then put that into Dropbox or into a Google Drive or into Microsoft OneDrive or any of the other programs, and I would then have that automatically at my home. Once again, I don't have to carry anything here. I don't have to have anything in my pocket. I don't have to keep my computer with me. I don't have to do anything. I can use that because I can go around. Now let's go to one more final example, and that is I find a paper document here. Okay, oh heavens, something on paper, I can't believe it. Anyway, so now I have this document that I really need to get a copy of. I reach into my pocket, I pull out my phone, I take a picture of that document, and I automatically upload it to Google Drive, OneDrive, or one of the other sources, or to Evernote, or to one of the other programs from my phone, and I have a copy of that document, completely legible and completely usable. Okay, so that's the epitome of what we're talking about. I mean, this is kind of the summary, the end product of what we're talking about here with cloud computing. And the cloud computer allows you to look at reality in a lot of different ways, and also allows you to move information in ways that you probably could never dream of doing even a few years ago. So once again, thanks for watching. This has been the BYU Family History Library webinar series. Our webinars will be posted to the BYU Family History Library YouTube channel, and we'd ask you to subscribe to the channel. That'll give you an opportunity of getting the lots of little notices from us as we keep putting videos up once or twice or even 3 times a week. Okay, well, thank you very much again.